Here I am. So this is something that you don't know. I'm here with Flavia Tata Nardini.
Yep.
And you're actually our first female guest.
Yoo-hoo!
And I know you are super passionate about that because the times I've heard you talk, and there's some amazing things that you do with schools where you actually speak to the students, which is so cool. So
That's right.
I really applaud that. But I guess there's a lot of people that might be thinking, you know, who is this person? Or there might not be. I mean, most people in Adelaide have seen you around the traps. But do you want to give us a bit of a brief history as from once you were, not that long ago when you were born in Rome?
Yep.
In Roma.
Roma.
Yeah. And then you somehow made it here to Adelaide. Do you want to give us a brief history? And we're going to talk a bit about space. Bit about maybe rockets and satellites or nano satellites, which is something that you're obviously passionate about here. For me, watching what you've been doing has been amazing, and you actually wanted to do that when you were really young, by the looks of it.
Yep.
So how old were you when you actually thought, I wouldn't mind sending things into space?
Quite young, I have to say. So I was born in beautiful Roma, so Italian family. I've got a big family. We have 5 siblings. I'm number 4. And all my family is pretty like engineers. They build stuff. They do a lot of cool stuff. But I was born with the space bug.
Yep.
Really don't know why. You know, some of them do chemical or biomedical. So it was completely random. You know, mom was a teacher. Dad is an architect. But I love space. And I really was the kind of odd child that was like, I want a telescope. I want this. I want that. And I just loved it, and I'm not really sure why. Okay, so I grew up and thinking I want to do this, I want to do that. I loved space, you know, always with my nose up looking at the sky. And then it got a little bit more complicated, and I became a teenager, you know, like all the things. And I think I just wanted to do something in space. And then I decided to do space engineering. I really, you know, I don't know why I got this space thing. It's a space bug. Because really everything that I've done in my life up to the point that then I studied space engineering and aerospace engineering was I wanted to just do stuff in space.
So to dumb it down just a little bit, space engineering.
Space engineering.
To me, when someone talks about engineering, I'm thinking of mechanical things. I'm thinking of, you know, engines. Space engineering is that
the next level?
Yeah.
What is it?
Like, is that like a rocket into space, or is that like a terminology for everything? Like, it's obviously not astrology.
No, it's not astrology. I actually was thinking about doing astrology. So when I was in high school, I was like, I want to do space. What can you do? Astronomy? Can you do like science? Can you do all sort of crazy things? Can you do engineering? So engineering is part of building stuff, right? I actually did aerospace engineering, so I studied planes as well as a bachelor, but then I did a space master and space engineering. And what do you study there? You study everything. You study airplanes, you study rockets, you study satellites, you study engines. I loved engines. Engines was my thing.
Yeah.
I'm like, wow, you can blow up stuff. That's awesome. Okay. And I didn't like airplane engines. I really like rocket engines. So when I did my master, I specialized in rocket engines.
So
I'm a rocket engineer.
Yeah, well, you're a rocket engineer.
Rocket
so
engineer.
you're actually like the rocket woman.
I'm a rocket nerdy woman.
Yeah. So do they say rocket person these days, or can I say rocket woman?
I think you can say rocket woman. Yeah. I love engine. I think they're awesome. You know, when you see that big boom coming from around.
So have you seen any of the shuttles take off? I'm
pretty. So I'm not from the Apollo time.
Yeah.
I'm pretty in my 30s, but I was looking always at these rockets, and I think there was a phase in my life that I wanted to find UFOs. So I'm like, I'm gonna find them. You know, all the things that kids are obsessed with.
Yeah.
Except that I brought with me up to 30 years old. You know, so I never stopped. I want to be an astronaut. I really don't see very well. Like, you know, I've got glasses.
Like you're actually blind?
You know, I'm actually blind, okay? So I never, you know, really my body is not really good for that type of thing. So I'm like, okay, let's just build stuff. But space engineering was cool.
Okay.
It was very cool.
And was this, so I'm assuming you studied in Europe?
I'm studying in Rome, and then when I graduated, I found this job in north of Europe, in the Netherlands, where they have the European Space Agency. That's kind of NASA in Europe.
Yep.
And there I was working with engines and stuff and these small satellites, the nano satellites.
So you were a micro
Propulsion,
thruster
blah, blah. Yeah.
test engineer. Is that
It's just
for
a
real?
thing. Yeah. You know, my first job was to test very small propulsion system for satellites. Yeah, how we had this amazing room in European Space Agency. I was a child, so I thought that's pretty cool. You know, you're 23, like, who gets to do this stuff? You test all this small propulsion system for satellites in this big room. It was awesome.
So did you pick up blokes with that sort of line?
Interestingly enough, you know, in all my life, you know, I've heard a sentence always that this is so weird. Like, you know, what do you do? I'm a space engineer.
Yeah.
And the first thing is like, you don't look like one. That I still don't know what the hell it means.
What do you
know,
need to
like,
look
you
like?
know, first of all, how do I have to look like? You know, second of all, is like, hello. So yeah, that was always funny.
So when you're talking about micro propulsion, explain to people listening and myself.
What does it mean?
I'm assuming like when a satellite or something goes in space, it needs something to move it
Yeah,
around.
so if you think about engines, you think about the big rockets that bring, they bring engine, that bring the rockets out of space. But
Yep.
satellites do need.
Because
little engines.
micro is not the rocket.
Macro is small, is satellites. So satellites are big, you know, usually as a half of a bus or a big room,
Yep.
and they have big propulsion system. I got passionate about small satellites, very small, like as big as like a bottle of wine or a shoebox.
Yeah.
That is super cool. So it's a technology that is, I think it started 20 years ago. And my explanation for this is that, you know, there was that awesome movie called Hidden Figures. Do you remember the movie about all the women?
The numbers.
Yeah, with the numbers in the basement that they participate. Okay. In that movie, there is an awesome part in which they buy the first IBM computer, and it's massive. Doesn't fit in the room. They have to destroy part of the wall. Satellites were like that, like a big, gigantic IBM, and now your phone is more powerful, right? So in the past 20 years, they're becoming smaller and small, and I got passionate about that, how to put a little engine in a little space. So when you got like a shoebox type of satellites.
Yeah.
So you launch many of these little bees in space.
Many.
I love it. It's cool.
Many.
100,000 of them. Yeah.
So obviously, you know, jumping into what you're currently doing now. Currently, I'm assuming you're the director.
I'm the CEO. Yeah.
CEO
I'm the
of
boss.
Fleet Space.
Correct.
And it's a business that you've started up here in South Australia.
Yep.
In little old Adelaide, which obviously we're becoming the space hub of Australia. Which
There's
is
everything happening here. Yeah.
and it's very exciting. The last few years,
Super
it
cool.
seemed to have come a long way, and you were really right at the top of this wave that was moving through.
Yeah.
Do you feel that or not?
Oh,
That
yeah.
must come with a bit of pressure too.
When I came here, so I was pregnant with my first one, so she's 7 now.
Yep.
So 7 years ago. I arrived here because, you know, I follow my husband and everything, but there was not much. I mean, Australia's got a big space history. They launched one of the first satellites in space. There's Woomera, a lot going on. But the commercial space has been quite quiet for the past many, many years. When I came here, and I left my job, you know, I had to work, maybe I had to become a mining engineer or something. It was really hard for me to find a job. You know, I didn't have defense clearance, so not working for big defense guys. There was no space startups. There was nothing. And when me and my co-founder started the startup before this one and this one, there was not such a thing of building a space startup in Australia. It was like people were looking at thinking, sure. Yeah, you know, go to Silicon Valley. Like, this is not the place. There is not a space agency. There are no space startup. VC are not investing in space startup in this country. That's just mental. Don't do it. And I'm like, why not? You know, I'm here. And, you know, I had kids and a husband that is from Adelaide that wanted to stay in Adelaide, as all the Adelaiders, you know, no, we're going to stay here. It's a beautiful city for a family. And I'm like, there is no space, anything here. What are we going to do? So we had to build our own thing, you know.
We got plenty of space.
Yeah, plenty of space for rockets and everything, you know. So it was awesome. You know, when we started Fleet, it was one of the first space startup in the country. There are 100 of them now in the past 4 years. That, you know, 100. And then I was, just after Fleet, they started building a space agency. I was part of the team that built a space agency. Who gets to do these things? Like, you know, I'm a young girl, just arrived in the country, participated to one of the biggest, most exposed things to the world. I loved it. I think it was really a lot of fun.
It's one of the biggest. Let's face it, out of things that sound sexy, like people say, oh, what are you doing? Oh, yeah, I'm into space. It sounds pretty
That's
sexy.
pretty cool, right? Okay.
Super cool, super cool. One of the things that you did before Fleet was that the lunchbox?
Yeah.
Launchbox, not lunchbox.
Also lunchbox.
That's a supermarket.
Lunchbox,
That's a very supermarket thing.
thing.
So
but
that was the launchbox.
But that was the idea, the word games a little bit there, because we wanted to start a startup, but we didn't really understand a lot about it, and I realized that when you lift an ecosystem in space, it's all about technology, high tech. You need to start with the kids.
Yeah.
You need to start to inspire everyone, because space is inspiring. And one thing that really, really touched me when I came to Australia, and knowing that a lot of people don't do engineering, so that like all these maths and things are kind of boring in kids.
Yeah. Whoa.
Like, oh, you do engineering. In the rest of the world, it's awesome. And the world is like building digital and software and building cool stuff. And here, a girl in year 12, the maximum she could tell is that I'm going to do biology. You know what I mean? I thought, what is going on here? Yeah. So I really wanted to inspire a little bit. So we built a company that was launching these small 3D printed satellites with schools. And we had done since like year 2 to year 12. It was fun.
Yeah.
Thousands of schools launching these things in space. Space is fun. If you're year 4, I've got 2 girls. I love it.
Yeah.
It's very inspiring.
I'm inspired by just listening to you talk about space. And I've got 2 young girls as well. So when you talk about a career, and the other day I was at home and the International Space Station was going, it came up on my app, and they were in bed, and I said, girls, get out of bed. We'll go see this. So we went outside, saw it go across literally like that. So it was very quick. And the girls are pointing out, got back inside, looked up what the International Space Station looked
People are living there.
Yeah, and that's what they were like, that's a long way away. And I'm like, I can't remember. It's not that far away, to be honest. It's actually not that far
Very close.
Yeah.
It's closer than Whyalla.
Yeah.
In a sense, you know what I mean?
So, they were like, could we do that? And I'm like, yeah, you can
do anything.
You can do anything. And speaking to you, you're definitely that do anything combination, and you clearly drive that to your family as well.
I think there is the point. I hope that my girls, I got a 4 and 7 years old, will do what they like. So it's not about they have to do what I like.
Yeah.
But what I've learned about space is that it's so complex and fascinating and inspiring. And you look at these kids, thinking, oh, people are actually living there, or people are actually going to Mars. They kind of expand their brains. So they actually think, oh, wow, look at what is possible. So it's not simply about doing that, And I think it's pretty interesting.
So if you talk about things that some of the things that you do actually speak to schools, particularly maybe girls' schools. Because,
a lot of girls' schools.
Yeah, because the girls' schools, and rightly so, have got a tougher job competing in a male-dominated industry. And it's really good to see that you're leading the way to say, hey, we can all do this. And that's, you should get the job on your own merit, regardless of what sex or colour or race or whatever. It shouldn't matter, right? But we know that it's breaking down that old school mentality and moving forward. And to see you actually spend your time actually speaking to schools, what do you actually say when you rock up to speak to a bunch of year 2s or year 4s?
Or year 12, the most complex one, I do a lot of girls' schools, and this is my bias, because I think it's important. Yeah. I'm a big believer of just, when you have to build complex tech startup, I think I'm a big believer on diverse inputs in general. So it's not about female versus male. It's also different cultures. And my team has got 20 cultures or something like that, okay? The reason why I started going to schools is because when I started hiring a fleet, now we are like 40 people, I remember the first year, 500 applications, and 490 were male. And I'm like, what is going on? You need to build a product that's worldwide, that appeals to different type of people. So you need to have that multitasking ability that women have, and that different brain. I just learned how to do that. And then I said, okay, I need to get into school. So I have to say, I get kids from schools inside to do job experience. And I go into school, it's always female school. Is my
Fair enough.
My journey. And
it's
what do
story.
I say? I love primary school. I also go to kindy or preschool, or even to my childcare, the childcare of my daughter. So I've got a version that that it sits for every age, and it's funny. And it's just interesting to see that the kids, very tiny little kids, like 4 years old, up to 6, 7, 8, their brain just expands. So they ask you all the most amazing thing, you know, and you just talk about space, why space is interesting for Earth, what's happening, where people can go. Later on, when I speak for girls, like at the end of high school, it's a lot about me as well. And that's the thing, you know, they ask me, do you have family?
Yeah.
You know,
What do you
whatever
do?
you do. And I'm like, yeah, I do. Like, is it hard? So there's still this misconception of why you are the CEO, you are aerospace engineering, must be hard. And, you know, it's hard to, but I love it. I'm fine, you know. So it's a lot of that aspect. Like, I could do that, but what do I have to sacrifice? Nothing, you know.
And you get to do it all. You must have a very supporting other half.
Yeah, you have to have supporting half. And again, I don't have my family here, you know. I came, so it's
And you're like quite outgoing. He's a little bit quieter.
Yeah, he has to be because I talk all the time. Otherwise, it would be hard for me to talk 24 hours a day, you know?
But he's the reason you're in Adelaide.
Yeah.
Is that fair to say? Is that it's like a love story?
He imported me, you know, like a wine, like a good wine.
Yeah, like a very good wine.
Like
In fact, we have very good wines here in Adelaide.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe it was not necessary, but in this case.
So you
good.
came here, that was 5 years ago? Was it?
Yeah, a little bit more. But, you know, he's
good.
got a full-time job as well. So my family's not here. But I think we found our way. But what these girls have learned, it's awesome. You know, the other day, I tell this story all the time. We went with Karina, she's 7. It was probably 1 year ago, she was 6. We went to Target and we needed to buy something for her, Lucas, like a friend from school birthday. So she's like, Mommy, let's just get a Lego, like, for boys, because there are the pink Lego and the blue Lego.
Oh, I know
so
all
she's
about
like,
it.
oh my God, okay. So let's go to the blue Legos, and I'm like, you know, let's go on a helicopter and a train and this, and then I saw this beautiful rocket. I'm like, what about the rocket? She said, no, Mommy, space is for girls. And I'm like, oh my God, this is like 5-star parenting. Yeah, that's it. I can retire. I'll see you when you're 18 because I've done my job, you know. So there is that thing that you probably work a lot, but what they are learning is pretty awesome.
That is, so speaking with children, I've got 2 young girls. They say the most amazing things. I have no idea where they get some of it from.
So good.
What's the most interesting question that you've been asked by one of these kids that you've had to talk to?
I think one of the stories I always say was very, very funny. So when we were doing this experiment with the kids to launch stuff in space, the launch box, and they had a little satellite. They couldn't do any experiments. So there was this year, I think it was like year 2. So it was like a 7 years old. So we did all a brainstorm, all the things. So we were launching this satellite in space, was there for a little while. And this 7 years old was like, and was looking at me and I actually do not believe that if you go into space, it gets colder because it gets cooler, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, it gets pretty cold. And he's like, I don't believe it because you get closer to the sun. I love it. And I'm like, my teacher keeps saying to me that it's going to get cool, but I think it's going to get hot. And I'm like, so should we test it? And he's like, I'm going to put a camera and saw popcorn. Like, no, not your popcorn. Like the seed, okay? And you will see it's going to pop because it's going to get
hot as it goes up.
And I'm like, let's do it. So we launched that thing. And in the camera, you saw that it was freezing. And he's like, oh, my damn it. Okay. But the mind of a 7 years old to that challenge of physics and wanted to test it, that's hilarious.
Yeah. That's so cool. So you actually go to the school and actually send a rocket up?
No, it's not a rocket. It's with balloons. It's a satellite with balloons and
so
stuff.
You film it?
Yeah. We film it. You got a GoPro and stuff like that.
How does it come down?
It goes down. So it's not a real satellite. It's all 3D printed. It's all with balloons, weather balloons. It comes down with a parachute. And
Really?
But it's great for them. So it goes out of the atmosphere, right? Okay. So it was fantastic when we were doing that.
That is cool.
And they take
I'd like
photos.
to do that. God, I want to send something up there.
With a bit of...
with a bit of advertising.
That was I was about to say. A bit of marketing. Like, Drake's is his face.
I could... Drake's
You can see this happening. Yeah?
Can we do this?
100%.
Okay. Lock this. That's locked in.
Locked in this idea for next week.
I am Drake's in space.
I'm a Drake's in space.
Yeah, you can help me with that one. So talking about, obviously there's a passion there for space. And I learnt something absolutely new today. And I didn't realise there's no sound in space. It's dead silent.
Not podcasts.
So if I was here to you... like, and I was yelling, you could not hear me?
No,
0.
0. That's good.
Yeah, good. Yeah, most people here would be nodding their heads for me.
Like,
Trust me.
that's good. That's the same for me.
So
like,
none at all. So there's 0 particles, so there's no noise.
It's a pretty quiet place.
Okay, so you've been interested in people going to the moon and whatnot.
Yeah.
Do you believe that they actually went to the moon?
Yeah.
On that first mission?
Yeah.
Okay.
I
I'm
did
a
a
bit
study,
skeptical.
there's so much going on. I think they went there.
Yeah.
I think they are coming back, and I think they're going to go to Mars. It's nowadays it's difficult to fake it because the technology is so high.
I think so.
And at that time, a lot of people said, I think I did a study when I was in high school about all the naysayers that demonstrated all those things, like the sound and the shadows.
Yep.
There's so many, the flag not moving, there's so many
See,
things.
So what is the story with that? I mean,
I actually think that when they went this year or last year, they saw the flag again and they saw everything.
Stop
so,
it.
Yeah,
They did not.
So,
that would have been on the internet.
Yeah,
Come
it
off
is on the internet.
You serious?
Yeah, check it out.
Ollie,
and they're becoming like heritage places or stuff like that, I believe.
So I was lucky enough to go there for work. We went to the Super Bowl with Pepsi. And they took us to a tour of NASA. We went to
Houston.
Yeah, Houston.
That's awesome.
So they took us on a tour. We had a private tour. It was amazing, and we got to sit with an astronaut. So a guy that had done three missions to the International Space Station. So
beautiful.
Not to Mars or anything, not to the moon, and. He was talking, and then he showed us. We went into mission control, so they took us into the real.
All the green one.
Yeah, like
awesome.
so we go in there, and all the punters were behind us. Were in these. I was pressing the red button and like all this sort of stuff, and you look at how archaic it was. But the one thing that really stuck in my mind was on the left-hand side of that building. If you're looking straight, they have all the missions
patches.
They have all the patches.
Yeah.
Right. And the astronauts come up with the design.
I know.
Yeah. So, and on that design, they usually write the name of the astronauts and they draw a picture or whatever it is. And then when they come back, when they take off, they put it on there. And when they come back down, they have a ceremony where they grab it from the left-hand side.
It becomes...
and it goes to the right-hand side. Unfortunately, there's a few that haven't come across,
Yeah, the Columbia and everything.
Yeah. So, but the thing that blew me away, there's 400 or so missions. The only plaque, the only badge that has not one astronaut name is that one. And it doesn't make sense. It does not make sense to me at all. And I'm not a conspiracy.
Maybe they were very tired when they came back. They're like, I'm barely alive, leave me alone, that type of thing.
Well, have you ever seen that press conference sort of when they came back? Have you actually seen that?
I think I've seen it because this was last year was, I don't know, many years of the Apollo mission and everything. So there was that movie that they put out with all the... Did you watch it?
Yeah, it's a movie. I haven't...
It's actually a series of documentary, like historical documents that they found, put together.
I've watched a fair bit of space stuff, but
fascinating.
The thing that really changed my mind is that they're the only Apollo, whatever it was, I think it's 11, that they came back and they don't, there's no astronauts' names.
Because that is the only one that they reached the moon. So
yeah,
that's not even right.
I don't know.
That's
like,
not
you
even
can
right.
call me strange or whatever you want. It's a bit weird. But anyway, moving on.
So the good thing is now they are going again. Do you know that there is this Israeli startup that went to the moon a few months ago and they just crashed. They landed, but they...
Hang on, did they crash or did they land?
They crash. Okay, so they did that with a... Yeah, no, it's amazing. They didn't... It wasn't like a soft landing. It was a bit of a hard landing. There were no people in it, but what it fascinates me about it is that they probably did all that mission with something like 80 million or something like that.
So that's cheap in space talk.
It's like way less than how much money they spent to do Gravity. That is a movie about space. So. They do real space stuff. This is what the space that I love. So nowadays you can do things for a fraction of cost. And the good things that I don't know if you know, but this year NASA announced it last year the follow-up of the Apollo mission, that is Artemis.
Yeah.
So in the Greek mythology, it was Apollo's, I think, sister, or I don't remember, so it's a female.
Yeah.
And it's the same budget that they use for Apollo, big budget. I'm talking about 40 billion or something. But the goal here is to put a space station around the moon, to put a woman on moon, they're going to live on the moon, and then use the same technology to do exactly the same on Mars. So in a distance of 70 years.
Like two people?
Two people. They're going to have people live there. They're going to create infrastructure. They're going to create roads. They're going to create electricity and houses and everything. So it's cheaper in the big scheme of things.
So, I mean, it's hard to comprehend that. But when I realised that it only took a day or 2 days to get to the moon.
Yeah.
I was expecting it to take a long time. Yeah, it takes 6 months to go to Mars.
Yeah, Mars is a little bit further.
But
again, you saw my TED Talk, because I'm passionate about that.
Yeah.
You know, it was taking them 4 to 6 months to go with a boat from Europe to America, and without GPS, without even knowing where they were going. Okay, and even have a phone or ability to call everyone, just following the stars. So sometimes I think, it's a long time, but what about those poor fellows that were putting on a boat in the middle of nowhere, with a wood boat,
Yeah. So you think it's the same sort of risk?
I think we are more equipped now, way
Yeah.
more equipped than what they were equipped before.
So with the moon, do you think there's any interest to go to the moon, or do you think it's to concentrate on something?
No, I think it's concentrated on more else. But you have to bear in mind that what fascinates me about these programs is that when Apollo happened, I think I read somewhere that something like 100,000 patents, so 100,000 inventions were created, okay, just as part of the big project. So it was so many million invested, billions, that it created so many technology, and most of them are now used in our lives, like in medical, in transport, ongoing. So now NASA is investing in this 40 billion or whatever, and I think it's going to build the base for all the technologies that we're going to use on Earth, for saving Earth, because I have to admit, I'm a big fan of using space to save Earth.
We have, that has been noted.
Yeah, I'm a bit of a nature, Earth is such a beautiful place, and I'm a big supporter on going to Mars, because I think humankind needs to keep moving. It's just part of who we are. And also, when you actually go out of Earth, you learn a lot of things about physics and absence of physics, absence of the same physics rules. So you can learn a lot about the diseases and stuff like that, and push boundaries. So I think in the next 10 years, we will build a lot of technology that we can use on Earth. Earth is still beautiful. Like, you look at Mars and you think, we are going to Mars, but Mars looks awful. Like, it's like, and it doesn't look very actually different from South Australia desert. It's very, very similar, if you put it outside. But look at Earth with all these oceans and green and trees and,
Is there another Earth?
I think they say there is. Okay, not this in the galaxy, probably Europa, don't remember. So there is other planets so beautiful, but the technology that we need to create is going to take a little bit of a while to reach them.
So with the solar system, so do you have a fascination with the planets and things like that? Or do you have a favourite planet?
Earth. Earth is my favorite planet. It's absolutely freaking awesome. And I think the key is that we need to learn to go to Mars and to reach the end of the solar system, because I think that they have identified 3 Earths outside the solar system. And I don't know if we're going to see these things in the next 100 years, but just to give you an example that I love it, okay? So all this technology that Elon Musk is doing to push.
Yep.
Okay.
It's amazing. It's been amazing for Adelaide too, let's face it.
Yeah, exactly. Is an interesting man, right? Okay. But one spin-off of this technology that he's talking about, so all this transport technology, is the ability for us to change our aeronautic industry. So the ability to have airplanes that brings you from Adelaide to London in 1 hour.
Yeah.
So just to give an idea how your supermarket world gonna change when someone can order a mozzarella from Rome and it arrives with Amazon Prime in 30 minutes from Italy.
Yeah.
Okay. People think that this is nuts, but this is gonna happen in the next 20 to 25 years.
So
it's,
thanks for the heads up.
Yeah, heads up.
We'll keep an eye on it.
Okay, keep an eye, particularly for the burrata. If it comes really, really fast,
Because obviously,
yummy.
And you've got, there's Elon Musk, obviously, and I will ask you if you've met him but there's also Richard Branson that's concentrating on...
and Bezos, these people are spending a lot of money.
So they are spending the money, and let's face it, it's probably the best thing that's ever happened to the space industry. Where
absolutely.
Always controlled by government, generally. Well, it was. Well, NASA and whatnot.
Correct.
And quite controlled. And now you're starting to get private enterprise that is looking to spend some of their spare change to change the world.
Improve technology and change the world.
Because they're technology people. You talk about Elon and you obviously must know about the Hyperloop.
Yeah. All the things he does.
This guy just does, he's got his hands in everything. But the Hyperloop, when you see speed tests of this, and if we can put something on if we show about what actually a Hyperloop is. I actually don't understand. I gather it's magnetic.
Yeah.
So
it's like the trains in Japan, I guess. They go very fast on...
Yeah, but this goes like a lot faster.
Yeah. I mean, like if you live in LA. But bear in mind that Elon Musk, everything he does is to live on Mars. So all those transportation under the ground of the batteries, and it's all a Mars master plan.
So
all these companies will come together in a master plan on Mars. So.
Okay,
Think about it. Or everything related to electricity, that we will need it there because everything related to underground stuff, rockets to go there, and satellites, and now all about brain and controlling robotics. Yeah. This is all his master plan for Mars.
So on Mars, it doesn't look like the prettiest place.
No, it's pretty...
I've only seen the rover stuff, which isn't... It's
very red.
Yeah, it's red. So do you live underground there? Or
there is the atmospheric condition, particulate atmosphere, I think, flew away. So we live so well on Earth because we got our atmospheric layer that protect us, but it escaped Mars. Okay, so Mars is very hot. There is a lot of CO2. So people think they're going to terraform Mars. So bring this.
Terraform. That's a word that you originally...
Scary.
So is this true that you originally were concentrating on getting things to Mars when you were...
I still concentrate on getting things to Mars.
So terraforming is what?
Terraforming is creating the same atmosphere in Mars so that you can start having rains and behavior that creates water and things like that. So a fleet, for example, what we do is a constellation of small satellites for remote operations. Okay, so we help industries to connect sensors and remote operate their assets, asset tracking, and so it's pretty cool technology. But why we like it because it's got all these remote operations, and remote operations are really important for Earth. When you actually move from manual to remote means that you save better food. 50% is wasted of food in the supply chain because we just do the supply chain, putting things on a truck So all this automated way of controlling stuff really is Earth-saving thing. But at the end of the day, it's going to be really cool on Moon and Mars. So we're going to get there.
So with fleet, I want to have a talk about it.
Let's talk about it.
You showed me, and I'd love it if we could get the footage that you showed. It's like an intro clip for Fleet. Yep. I saw it at South Start, and you've actually had a newer one since then, which I saw somewhere, but I've seen it, but I would like to play it because it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So what it is, basically, you can obviously tell people, but you obviously are piggyback, like a satellite's a pretty big piece of machinery.
Yeah, but this one is smaller.
So this a normal satellite, what, the size of this room?
Yeah. This room is probably the size of a small bus.
Yeah, a small bus. Yep. So that's what's up in the atmosphere, the outer stratosphere.
Yeah, very, very high. But these new satellites are pretty small.
Yep.
So think of really
like
about
a shoebox.
Really
like
a shoebox of technologies.
Yep.
They go 500 kilometers from Earth. I still launch with a rocket. So we still launch with Elon Musk and other rockets. But the idea is that, so it's an interesting concept. So they create internet for what is called Internet of Things. So Internet of Things is an interesting concept. Is the idea that they call it the next industrial revolution. So the third industrial revolution was Internet for people. So you got your computer and you got your iPhone, and life is great. Yeah. Okay. So before that, there was nothing like this. Now we work in industry and that's normal, but we forget that 30, 40 years ago, there was nothing like it. So the next industrial revolution, the fourth one, is about bringing things on the internet. So at the moment, how many things you got in your supermarket? Many.
Yeah, thousands,
Many, okay.
thousands of touch points.
And for the moment, every single thing that is online is just your stuff. But in the coming 15 years, every single asset from the car or the truck to the salad to the, and this is for every industry, will have a GPS location, a timestamp, and it's going to go on internet. So the efficiency of everything you guys operate, and not just you guys, so electricity plants and, everything.
So to have everything connected, which is the IoT.
Yeah. Large scale. Why do you need satellites and everything? You know?
So is that to make things more efficient?
Yeah.
Or is it to really learn, like, if someone knows where I got a Tesla, love that.
Good.
But if someone knows, like, that's tracked anyway, so that's probably a bad example. But, what's the benefit of knowing? Do you want to talk us through? Let's talk through.
What's the benefit of knowing everything?
So let me talk through a live example of mangoes. Like, you might know some live examples for mangoes, they're picked on a farm. So do you want to talk us through how...
So there is a lot of cases, because IoT is all about cases. But the mango is a funny one, because everyone loves mangoes. Okay?
Yeah, everyone.
So something that I've learned when I started this journey is that in the supply chain, something that I really didn't know, so in the big supply chain, so, cold supply chain on oceans, we waste more than 50% of the food in the big containers. And I'm like, this is a big number. Like, there are 7 billion people that are gonna come live with us in this world, and we waste 50%. So we waste water at the very beginning. Then we waste 50% of the food. I think all the food that reach the person eating, 40% of that is wasted. We waste so much. And we've just been doing this for years. Mango is something really I loved, because I love mango.
Yeah, I love mangoes.
And it turns out that the mango, to get to a place where it can be sold, has to be in a particular conditions. And that is your word. And it is something like constantly in the supply chain at 18 degrees in the core.
Yep.
Like a random number, like God knows what. Okay.
It's very specific, though.
Yeah, it's very specific. Otherwise, it gets a little bit rotten, and it gets, to the supermarket. You can't really sell it anymore, and it's a window of time. So there are a lot of companies around it. The supply chain is complicated because it comes from the farm, out of internet, on the oceans. A lot of companies build these little chip that actually are biodegradable, so that goes inside the mango, track all the life. So if there is a door that open and close during transport that gets the temperature higher, straight away you can act. Okay, this is one tiny example of a million example of IoT of things they can do, but it's fascinating.
So you are saying that potentially every piece of fruit
will have its own ID.
Stop it.
So you go from every truck have its own ID to every pallet have its own ID to every piece of leather box have its own ID to every piece of fruit or every piece of thing. So it's a big change. It's going to happen 20, 30 years.
So I guess that's one reason. That's probably a reason how we started to talk, because obviously we transport a fair bit of things. We 3PL everything, comes from a warehouse, goes from the grower, goes straight out to the stores, because we do some paddock to plate. So there's a lot of synergies there. When you talk about a biodegradable chip that is actually being read by one of your nano shoebox size satellites.
The satellites, it's great.
It sounds far-fetched.
The reality is that most of these things, when you actually think about connectivity, every time the connectivity made a step further in society, it allowed a revolution in the industry. So at the moment, I think 98% of the world is unconnected. So in the 30,
how much?
98. So 3G, 4G, 5G is in 3% of the world. So where there are the cities. It's crazy. So when you think about IoT or your Tesla driving itself, and you name it, okay, so how do you do when it's not 3G, you edge computing, there is so many technology needs to come online. So everything will be connected. Hello.
Yeah,
so someone had to create some internet for it.
So then someone needs to be in that platform, and you said you sent up a couple of mother loads, which I'm assuming are satellites.
Yeah, for last year and now for next year. We want to launch 100.
Yep. So are they for nanos going up?
Yeah.
Or so you've obviously said to someone, hey, can we borrow your rocket?
Yeah. Elon Musk.
And can we send some stuff
couple
up?
of stuff up, and we do it every year, and we are gonna get to a point that we must produce the satellites, and the satellites you can launch them, every month depending of what capacity people needs. And there's amazing things that we do, in agriculture is a easy feat, because big distances, and it's so much sense. So crop maintenance, animal tracking, weather predictions is a no-brainer. But it's way more than that, like all energy, electricity, distribution network, solar panels, line of grids, and then you go to asset tracking and your life and depots, and oh my god, it's endless. We are doing a really good project now tracking turtles in US and all sort of things.
Tracking turtles.
Yeah, it's
so,
really
so
good.
one that most because I'm obviously we have a bit of a bias to food, but if you would you mentioned, I heard you with one of your talk about how there was a farmer, big farm, tracking the cows, the cattle.
Yeah.
So they used to round up the cattle by helicopter.
Oh my God. Yeah.
So
they still do it. In the Northern Territory, they herd cattle with helicopters. It's massive. And sometimes they got RFIDs if they're close to the farm. But most of these farms are as big as Belgium.
Yeah.
So how do you track? And the idea will be that eventually when someone buys a meat in a supermarket, hopefully it will have a scan and it will say that cow come from this place, eaten this grass, and it's been checked for this thing. So we actually know what we are buying.
Yeah.
And why we are spending $30 for this piece of meat
instead
and
of 50.
Exactly. Why we are buying this, and also if there are diseases, where they're coming from. So all that knowledge.
So with the waste part, I mean, you're a big advocate for climate change, and So for me, there's no doubt it's hotter now.
It's hotter.
Right? Than it used to be.
Yeah, it's hotter.
And I'm struggling to determine what summer, winter, autumn and spring are to my girls, because it's all over the spot. And that's just a very basic look at life. But it's definitely a lot warmer now than it was when I was 10 compared to how my girls are, for instance. So I'm only assuming that, once upon a time we had, end of World War I, there was like 1.7 billion people on the planet. Now we have 7.8 billion people on the planet.
And we're going to have more.
And we're going to have more. Is that not something that's just a part of the life cycle of a planet? Or?
So then I like the topic and I like numbers. Okay, I'm a nerd. So, it's hard to justify the numbers. So I think in general, the problem with climate change is the absence of awareness on numbers. So I like to study them.
Yep.
And I like history in general. So I look back and I'm like, if you we are looking at 67 years or 100 years, planet is looking at billion of years. So you have to look at a big picture and say, okay,
13.8 billion years.
Okay, so the planet, from his point of view, it says, okay, you guys are looking at your past 100 years, but I'm looking at you from a bigger lens.
Yep.
What the bigger lens tells you, that I think that is scary, is that this activity that's happened in the past 50 years is very, very fast. So it's faster compared to the normal cycles of the planet. It's extremely fast, and it's not caused by the normal planet behavior. So the planet has got a normal behavior that goes in cycle, but it's completely out of normal behavior. So this is caused by us. Okay.
So you're actually basing it on, let's say, the last 50 years.
It's the speed of increment in temperature. It's not just the increment in temperature. There are three big numbers that they look at. Is the increment in temperature, that I think is 2 degrees in the past 30 years. And if it keep going at this trend, it's going to be 8 degrees by 2030. So in every city is 8 degrees plus. That's massive. So we are talking about 50 degrees in Adelaide.
We're talking 10 years away. It's 2020, by the way.
Yeah, so, the number is huge, okay? The second one is the rise of the oceans. And at the moment, they are talking about these millimeters. In 2040, they talk about 30 centimeters. So they talk about a number of the city that will go underwater. Like cities, like Adelaide, that they go underwater. So they talk about 24 million of people a year that will come in poverty due to the fact that all these crazy things are going to happen. So it's kind of, we are in a point that these things are going so fast, and that is, of course, the CO2 in the atmosphere. That is the reason why everything is happening. So CO2 in the atmosphere is why the temperature is higher, is why the rates of the ocean is higher, because the ices are melting, and because we got more extreme weather.
Yeah.
Like, come on, we had the fires and the flood in 2 weeks' time. Those are extreme weather events. Yeah.
Yeah, it was on and off, like just like.
And they are not normal. So the thing that excites me in one side, they're not really excite me on the other. That these are due to the CO2 increase, and CO2 increase is not normal for a planet. So it's not a normal behavior of a planet. It's due to our industries.
So if I'm just me, which I am, if you were to say, hey, these are 3 things you could possibly do, if you could tell someone what are 3 things that could help climate change, what could you come up with 3?
Yeah, I've got 3. So as I see the world and what I've learned, I put it in 2 buckets. So what the big ones should do, so 3 things that the big influential people or companies should do that make more impact. But what if every person on earth could do 3 things that will make the same impact? Okay, so the good things that I'm seeing on large scale is, of course, one of the big topic is production of CO2 in coal or fuel. Okay, so the big things that I see at our large scale is electric cars.
Yep.
That is what Elon is doing. That is massive. It's going to have an impact that you don't even know. Okay,
so that's
a big tick.
What do you
buy
say
a Tesla?
Buy a Tesla. What do you
buy electric cars?
What do you say to the people that say, oh, it costs more money to actually produce that car? Because what do you say to those people that say it costs more money to produce that car? It's worse for the environment, because you hear so much misinformation.
I think it's misinformation. Yeah. So there is still to produce that car, there is a bit of plastic still. So plastic still comes from fuel and everything. So don't get me wrong, there is still a way to go. But I think it's a big step. If you look at cars, for example, cars is not the main problems. Like the big industry equipment, that's all on fuel.
Yep.
That spend way more. So I think that all should move to hydrogen. So these big 2 trends of, so the world trends about electric cars, hydrogen use more than fuel, migrating away from coal, okay, and having more battery on roofs. And this is a massive trend. So if all the worlds are doing that, we will start decreasing. The second one is more trees. So there are 2 things to fight CO2. So I'm seeing some amazing things about farmers, of having the ability of farmers to treat their soil better. There are mushrooms now that they can use and stuff to create more, to attract CO2, for things like that, and more trees. Trees are natural things, to combat CO2. So use cars, move to hydrogen, put your solars and stuff, buy a Tesla battery, and I'm starting from the little things, recycling is a must.
Yep.
I've moved to a bamboo toothbrush. That is bizarre. But, the weird things that I started 1 year ago, and I also moved to fleet to just use with customers that can help Earth and not customers that can fight Earth. That was a big decision.
That's a big decision.
This big decision. But it feels good. Like, every time I just integrate something like, a bamboo toothbrush, or, I go into supermarket, instead of getting that banana that is all in plastic and the other one is not, because you see those banana in plastic and you think like, why you put plastic? Like, banana is got a natural thing, so all those things, we consumers start doing these things, and it feels good.
So I have 100% agree.
We feel good,
and we talk about we are progressing in the right way forward. We're working on our packaging, and we are
it's a big topic,
and it's a big topic because we have a lot. Like you face it, you go down.
Oh my god,
it's out
massive.
of control. And now you go to the fruit and veg section, and I keep saying we only supply what the customers want, and unfortunately,
it's changing though.
They do want that. So do you think?
I think that in Europe, supermarkets and so on are just imposing themselves. But, it's how far do you get it? Like, what about your shampoo?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's hard work.
Everyone brings in that.
But you bring your own shampoo.
But let's talk about this, because with the fruit and veg, we go in our department, and I'm almost embarrassed at some of the things that we wrap. Like, kids
like
pack.
The banana or the kids' apple.
Like all this stuff. And Do you think, and I'm almost, I can't say it because they'll probably get shot for it, but we should trial a store where we just go, you know what, we're going all non-packaged
And
product.
see how people
And
react.
see what happens?
Yeah, definitely. In life,
Would
in
you
particular,
go, I know you
I
live
will
down at
go.
the beach somewhere. So
yeah, I got a Drake's next year. So try with the Semaphore Park one.
So
The Semaphore
do
one.
you think that because the customers are, and I hate saying this about customers, but generally they're very time poor. They are technically lazy and they shop on convenience, right? So if we supply a packaged product and we take out all the packaging, right? So we specifically buy certain products, everything that you can, but you have your strawberries loose. You have your blueberries, like everything is loose. Do you think people would change? And I'm almost keen to do it for one store to see what people would do.
The reality is about
Semaphore is probably the right place.
Yeah, because they're all like, yoo-hoo, we're going to save the world. Okay. So, yeah, I actually think that you have, in everything about business and retail, you have to try. But I think it's very important, the messaging. And also maybe changing the structure of the supermarket so they do have some bags, but they are, biodegradable, whatever they are.
Yeah, that's happening.
So, it's happening. And explain that. I think it's going to happen. Like, it's going to happen. And the reality is that it's just going to happen.
We're going to do a reversal.
People are not stupid. And slowly they are. I mean, look at that little girl, Greta. It's a 14 years old. They influenced 10 million, 40 million people. Like, will pop up way more
some good
people.
memes about her too.
You have to get ready. You have to get ready.
Yeah, I mean,
But you have to experiment, like everything.
Yeah,
experiment.
I think, and you know what? I think we need to be courageous enough to experiment. The other
courageous.
Thing, courageous. So the other thing I bang on about is that Australia's imprint on the world, the global floor on the global arena, is 1%. So, do you think?
I think it's actually the impact of coal and plastic is bigger than what you think. Okay, it's a big country, and unfortunately, or fortunately, the mining history, the plastic history is actually massive in this country.
So,
but Australians love nature.
Yeah, we do.
I think India. I don't know. I mean, how many countries now they are going into for plastic free? It's gonna happen. I mean, Australia always they say that, we are far from everyone. We are 1%. At the end of the day, you are 5% of the entire territory. Massive, okay? But...
So are you pro-nuclear power use? Or against nuclear power use?
Nuclear power is an interesting thing because I think that what happened in this, the drama related to explosions and terrible things we've seen in the past was related to safety, not related to the product itself. So there is a lot of change that need to happen in the education of people because that type of power is a very interesting power. This is a very interesting type of powers that can be used. There is a lot of misinformation.
Yeah.
So about power, about coal, people protest against mining, for example, heavily. But mining is not all about coal. Most of the mining in Australia about copper and about lithium. And copper and lithium are used to do your Tesla car and your solar batteries and your phone. And you know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah,
there is a lot of misinformation. So the information needs to get better for people to understand. But, I wrote something interesting that Rio Tinto or someone, I don't know, is changing the way they do casing with Apple. So they are not come from plastic and coal.
Because they use uridium.
Yeah, so there's a lot of misinformation, but there's a lot of good things as well. So it's not all bad. We need copper,
I'm pro-nuclear.
Yeah,
I think,
me too.
You look at, unfortunately, there's Chernobyl, which is back in the 80s, I think. And then Fukushima, which they built on a fault line on the coastline.
Course.
Australia, very stable. We've got a lot of desert.
Of course. A lot of space.
And we've got high taxes. So it could be something that I can't believe that a government's not picking up to say, we mine it. We mine uranium here.
I know. Not far from Adelaide, actually.
Yeah, correct. If we turned ourselves into a nuclear power plant like Simpsons, so to speak, you've got the right conditions to be able to do it, which we already do.
I think it's a cultural problem there. It's not a technology problem. The technologies are amazing. And just it's generation that have been affected too much that what happened during the war and what happened in Russia, you know.
Well, we're one of the only countries, and I was lucky enough to sit next to someone that I actually probably can't say, but the story goes along. We buy nuclear submarines for our beautiful country, and we convert them to diesel.
Yeah, I know.
And I'm like, I said, okay, what's the difference between a diesel submarine and a nuclear submarine? He goes, well, you could put it like this. A nuclear submarine is quite quiet. Can't hear it. Diesel submarine, we can hear it from a mile away.
Pop, 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 pop.
Yeah. And a diesel submarine can stay underwater for like 60 days and a nuclear submarine can stay underwater for 90 days. Why the fuck would we do that? And then you go, so what countries are using nuclear? France, China, USA. It's like France. Out of all people, France are using it. Well, then it's good enough for me. But that's another story because that comes down to the mining, and that's a big part of
all of it. Like all these things that we're discussing now. So you're in your life, you're thinking, will the customer be happy if I do a change? This is a business decision. It's important, okay?
Yeah,
and it's not as easy. But for government and public, so if you think about space, like the creation of the space industry here. And we need to go through a lot of misinformation about what space is all about. You know, people were like, why do we need to invest money in space? Like, who wants to go to Mars? You know, why should we go to Mars and invest in space technology if we don't have money for our kids? You know, that sentence. And I'm like, oh, wow. Okay. So my satellites helps the farmer, helps you, helps the industry, helps people not to get into cars, you know, to check a pole that is going down in the middle of nowhere during a storm. It helps the economy. People don't know that. People think about space, just rockets, distractions. Totally. And then now South Australia is building a rocket pad in Port Lincoln. I don't know if you know that, okay?
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. People are like, what do we do with a rocket? What do we do with a rocket? We put in the rocket the satellites from Flavia to help the farmer, okay? Because Flavia needs a rocket to go up. So there is that little, as every technology, you need a little bit of education, you know. Otherwise, it's a complicated things to understand. So we need to be clear.
There's no doubt it is. And you talk about the space pad. I was just clarifying that. Even your accent made it sound.
Oh, it's a space pad. Not space pad. Not space pad. Let's call it a space launch pad. Okay.
So
what do you think? Is it better?
So for us, and like, you know, you're now a proud South Australian.
Yeah, I'm Australian. Yeah. You know, I became Australian last weekend.
Yeah. So you now you've been in Adelaide long enough to know that we don't want to go to Woomera is a fair way away. We're going to Port Lincoln. It's a little bit closer. So how close are we from actually seeing a rocket launched from
Port Lincoln?
A
few years.
That's all?
Yeah. It's got to be awesome.
Yeah. See, that's just so amazing. And we're really lucky to be, and we're lucky to have people like you pushing that fact. So we go back to the global warming.
Yeah.
No doubt there's lots of talk about what's going on, and we see there's a big push about food waste, and we mentioned it a little bit before. This is something that I got a stat for you here, is that each person, so we talk about the Australia sends approximately 5.3 million tonnes of food waste to landfill each year. So that's 5.3 million tonnes. So that's 202 kilos of food waste per person for every single person in Australia.
Per year?
Per year.
Wow.
And I knew you wouldn't have known that figure because...
It sounds about right.
My fresh guy does, thank God. So for us...
So where?
So from that, 2.2 million tonnes of that comes from the commercial and industrial sector, which is that's us. So... That there, we put in 2.2, so commercial real estate. So the other 3.1...
It's households.
Yes. And it's a frightening number. It's a big number, and that's for every person in Australia. So if you looked at... If we could save that, and I'll use the example of a cherry grower. We went out to good old Terry at Torrens... Was it Torrens? Torrens Valley Cherries, and he's a lovely guy, and... He was showing us his farm. Doesn't like talking in front of a camera, but he showed us he has a machine that takes 10,000 photos a second of all the cherries floating through like this, and it chooses what grade each cherry is by.
Awesome.
And you just think, oh, cherry farm, and you're like, oh, and you see it, and it splits it up to, okay, they can go to Coles, they go to Woolworths. Oh yeah, the good stuff that goes to Drake. So.
I'm sure that's how it's separated.
So this machine takes 10,000 photos a second, and he had some going to a run, and we were there. And I said, where are they going? And he said, they're not good enough to sell, but they look
amazing.
They look perfectly fine, right? And this thing's taking a 3D photo. It tells you where the marks are on it. It's amazing. And I said, well, what do you do with that? And he goes, I dump it. Like, I can't sell it. And we're like, so we have a Fight for Food brand.
Yep.
And we packaged those cherries. So we ended up putting that brand together, packaged the cherries, went out to stores, they all sold. So he was telling me, and this is the part that scared me, 40% of cherries off a tree only make it to
I bet.
40% don't make it to the shelf.
So I will buy fruit with a corner that is, I will buy.
Yeah. So we did.
A lot of people will buy.
So, and so did everyone else, but we did put it in a plastic bag.
That's just the plastic bag, so one thing at a time, you fix one side, they're like, but the blanket is short, you will have one side and the feet comes out. I think
it's like that. Like
I think it's awesome.
So just by being there and going, where's that go? He goes, that goes to waste. It was like, just, hey, and I spoke to our fresh guy. I said, mate, what are we doing? So we ended up getting those.
And people buys it, eh?
Yes.
Of course, I would buy them.
And they were like half the price of the cherries. I think they're $4.99.
And super yummy.
Super yummy. They're off the same tree, but they haven't made it for the quality because, unfortunately, as a supermarket, we have trained people to be very
picky.
Yeah, we want them to only pick the best possible fruit and veg possible, and it's a good thing, and it's also a bad thing because it makes people not buy.
No, I agree. I think it's more awareness. If I look about you guys and your next campaign that you're doing now, that I'm noticing, like about being South Australia, being like, you are the voice that can say, hey, look, these are South Australian stuff. They got a corner on a little cherry, but it's awesome. People will buy.
Yeah. Well, that will happen with the Lenswood apples. They had a hailstorm, and they said, shit, what can we do? And we said, well, okay, they came up with a Freckles campaign. Hey, look, we've got a few marks on us, but
cool.
We're okay to eat. And that's all I buy now. It's in a plastic bag, though. But
we remove the plastic bag after.
But that's all I buy. But
what about all the food that is wasted in the household?
Yeah, and I think that's becoming less and less. Like my girl, they teach it at school because my girls have been a far more, oh, Dad, you eat that. Dad, like, they don't let anything go in the bin, and that's probably why I'm putting on weight.
You mean the kilos? No, don't blame the kids.
No,
it's because you're doing sport.
But they know what goes in the recycling bin. They know that, like, we came back and Nat's dad, my wife's dad, he was throwing bowls in the bin and he was pulling them out. I didn't know he was pulling them out. I go, what the fuck are you doing, Ed? And he goes, no, I got the bottles yet 10 cents. And I was like, because I moved from Queensland. I went, oh, cool, all right. So I said, all right, so I'll make a thing of this. So we started collecting it. So we've been back here for 5 years and we've got about $2,200 of bottles.
Of course.
That goes straight into the girls' account. So now the girls go around.
Richer than you.
Yeah, that's amazing.
But, those little things, this year I started to separate hard plastic to soft plastic. There's so much soft plastic in the things we buy.
That's correct.
And at the end of the day, it all gets into a, squash in a teeny tiny pack. So I think they're getting good in households.
Yeah, we are getting a lot better. So I'm putting it out there. If anyone listens to this, I'm happy to do something with one of our growers that we use. And we'll use your technology to test this, which you're already doing. But I'd like to see it happen in South Australia so we can talk about the story.
Yeah,
so I'm
absolutely.
just flagging that. So let's talk about... there's some questions here that's easy for you. Why Adelaide? I mean, it was pretty easy. You were following your heart.
Following my heart.
And he's a freaking champion too. Got some beautiful young girls as well. No, it's not girls, so kids. So
girls, yeah. They're 4 and 7, like teenagers.
4 and 7, yeah. Tell me about it.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So there's a fair bit there. What drives you? So what's one thing in your... that you're not your passion, but what drives you to want to explore more, to do more, and to actually, be successful in this industry, which is the space industry?
I've got a personal passion for it. I always think that I'm in this world to do something amazing for space. But I have to admit, this year, all these things about Earth really, really just create a purpose on everything. Like I'm building something to save the world and helping everyone. It's a great purpose. It's a reason when you wake up in the morning and you have to pack the kids and go to work and run a startup thinking, why you have to do that? And you're like, you got 10 years to 2030, and 2030, everyone will die. So you better launch satellites, and save the world. I found a purpose in what I'm doing, and it's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's amazing to see too. So I'm really excited about that. So see the journey, and it feels like you just started. So
yeah, I just started, but we have to go fast. So every day feels like, oh my god, like we have to go faster, and I'm like, it's just Monday.
So do you go faster? Do you talk about rocket propulsion, or do you talk about electric propulsion?
Electric rocket propulsion.
The Tesla is so fast, it's actually incredible.
It's incredible.
And I'm only assuming a rocket's a bit more. I haven't ridden a rocket.
Not yet.
Or driven a rocket yet.
Yeah.
So give me something to work on. Who is the most influential person that you have met in this industry?
Wow, in space?
Yeah.
So it's a small community. I think the people that are more interesting to meet are the astronauts. And I met few.
Yeah.
Actually, I got a talk with one of them tonight.
You've got a conference tonight.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
she's got to be on
Yeah,
time.
because we are in a panel with Andy Thomas, that is a great astronaut. I met some of them in the US, but not for the reason that you think. You will think, the most inspiring person you met is an astronaut but they are the most humble humans you ever met. It's weird. You speak with them. There was one of the American female. We were in a talk together in Melbourne. We went and drank some wine after. She was like, I don't understand why people want to talk to me. And I'm like, because you went to space like 10 times and that's cool.
Yeah.
And she was like, I'm just a pilot. She's an Air Force pilot. Just a pilot that just drove the thing. And I'm like, yeah, but outer space?
Yeah.
She also had the problem with height, when you're scared of height.
Like vertigo?
Scared. Yeah, vertigo. And I'm like, you have vertigo? And she's like, it's been a struggle. And I'm like, you've been on a space station for months. And she's like, I wish people would treat me like a normal person, not like an astronaut. I don't understand what everyone loves me. And I'm like, so they are just humbles. I don't know if it's caused by the effect of what they see out there. They talk about
what do they say?
Earth from the top and just...
So it's not flat?
It's not.
It's not flat?
It's not flat.
Oh, my God. Like, Earth is not flat.
I know, that's what they say, but it's like moon. If we ever land in the moon, is the word of flat.
So she is?
She's amazing.
Okay, so we talk about what they see. Like, it's a very big universe out there. And we can't... Do you believe we're the only beings on this planet?
No. On this planet, maybe. I don't even know, because on this planet, I've got some doubts, because it's a big unknown under oceans that we don't know yet, so maybe weird things will come out of the oceans. But out there, sure, there's someone else.
Have you seen anything yourself?
No, but it's a big topic for me. I love it. I'm always with the nose around looking for it, I believe in ghosts and all sort of things, so I believe in all this weird stuff, so I'm always with an eye open.
So with your talk about things like that, have you heard of Bob Lazar? Have you heard of like what his work and obviously he's basically saying, that it's definitely there.
Yeah.
I just want to I want to see something.
I know, me too. This is why I started this. So I was obsessed with Area 51 when I was a younger, and I'm like, I'm pretty sure that someone saw something. I've got this obsession that someone on Earth saw something. I see a lot of videos. Those videos like you.
I know.
I love it.
Well, and I think I've had a situation when I reckon I must have been 8 or 9. I was in Corny Point, York Peninsula. I distinctly remember I was on the balcony and it was dark and it's nothing out there, right? Let's face it. I don't know if you've been there, but in South Australia, it's literally freaking remote. And I was sitting there, and we were sitting at the table, and I was there with my cousin and her mum and dad. And I have no doubt what I saw wasn't something that I could explain. It was a fast, like, sit there for a while, and then went literally like in a straight line back. And then back, forward, no noise, no sound. It was dead silent, but it was fast. Like, it wasn't someone said, "Oh, it could have been a helicopter." Now I know it. There's no way. I just look at that and I think, I wish I had my fucking phone.
I know, to take a photo, like zoom in.
Like, fuck. And I look now all the time. I'm always looking in the air because, the way the universe is, and yet I don't know if you've seen that footage where someone has, like, they got the consonants, or is that what it's called? Like, well, there's a heap of stuff together, then it keeps on coming back all the way. And you look at that and you think, we can't be alone here. And that's what makes things so exciting. And I think it also makes it scary as well. To an example, if there has been lots of knowledge of this and the public's kept not with the right information, I think that's a sort of that's another paradigm.
But on the other hand, why do we want to know if there are other people? Why do we want to go? Why do we want to know? Why? So what fascinates me about a human in general is that we just want to know. Like, we are amazing. I read an amazing book in the past month that says that in the past, 1,000 years, the human race was very focused on treating big diseases, wars, and all the big things, And now we're kind of nailing that in a sense. There are still wars, there is still poverty, there is still diseases, but we're getting good at that. So the next big things, we need to keep moving. Humans cannot stop. They have to keep creating, they have to keep moving, they have to keep bringing everything in the journey. So this is the time we're gonna go back out there. So
they bring people back that could be aliens, Elon Musk, that they don't think like anyone else.
There are like Elon Musk and other people. I honestly think every entrepreneur, founders, and it's a little bit of a weird personalities. It's amazing humans. Like, every century has got 4 or 5 humans like this that allow the entire generation, the entire human species to grow. I think it's awesome. I put it to the same, like, I used to wakeboard, not that good, but compete, but not very good at all. But back in the day, you used to do a flip and then land it, and now the kids are doing, like, then you saw double flip progress, and then you saw double flip with twist. And it's one of those things, when someone pushes that boundary, it's about every boundary that ever gets pushed. And there's no doubt space definitely. It's like that. Yeah.
Space pushes boundaries. So there's no doubt that that's going to be the continued thing. So you're a believer. Good.
I'm a believer.
I'm not by myself. I'm a believer. If you weren't doing what you're doing now, what would you be doing? If you could do anything, for me, I'd be a Formula 1 driver.
Oh, you would be a Formula 1 driver.
Yeah, without a doubt. I'd be Charles Leclerc for sure.
I would probably be in a reserve in Africa working with lions and elephants.
Okay.
Still want to do that.
That doesn't surprise me at all. So you still got plenty of time to do that, right?
Exactly. Probably next month. You know that my co-founder of Fleet is called Matt Pearson, and he's got another tech startup in which he's built, the biggest man-raising, it's called airspeeder. So it's a flying car. It's a racing flying car.
Can we see? Can we?
You can see it.
Can
it's
I
actually in Adelaide. They flew a good last year.
Hang on. Are you fucking with me here?
No. So it's double the size of this. It's massive. Yeah, it's a manned flying racing car. So they're starting what is called the airspeeder championship. So that
get the fuck out of here.
So you probably want to be a flying car racing guy.
Oh my God. Are you serious?
For real. They went to Goodwood last year. It was awesome.
At Goodwood?
Yeah.
How don't I know about this?
It's in Adelaide.
Fucking flying man car. Can someone look that up for me? For holy hell. Can we get to somehow... Can we go in it? Can I go in it?
Yeah, you can go in it. It's the same street of Fleet that I've got an office. I guess... massive. So you probably want to be a flying car racing guy, not a Formula 1. Formula 1 is old.
Oh my God. Can you follow that up for me?
I think they want to do a race next year in Kurupiri or I think something like that. Yeah. That's cool.
Oh my God,
You probably want to be there.
This could be my calling. Can you make sure that happens?
Yeah, okay.
Flavia, I'm not going to let you go on that. So I'm just flagging. That is.
So this is technology. It's cool stuff, right?
Yeah, it's very cool. So, I guess if there was one thing, and you've talked about it a bit, but if there was one thing that you could do, aside that what you're currently doing, so something that's you're not currently doing, that would have an impact on the world, what would it be?
Oh my God.
So you're
more than what I'm doing.
So you're doing, like what you're doing, internet, IoT of things, connecting devices, making the analytic decisions to make the world a better place. You're doing that.
Easy,
Old news.
easy, peasy, lemon squeezy. What's next?
So if there was something that if you had unlimited budget, unlimited resource...
If I had a limited budget and limited resources, I'm very passionate about being what we were discussing before. On changing, transporting people on new airplanes that goes very like Adelaide, London in 1 hour, and I think it's gonna change the world a little bit.
And I think that we're gonna see that. We're gonna be on that.
I will do that if I got my money. If I had infinite money, so many things. I don't know. Probably I would just have a big nap. A few weeks, go on holiday. That's probably what I would do. And then regroup.
For that. Like I think that intergalactic travel, or no, not intergalactic. Talking about where you pop out of the atmosphere
and you go down. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's probably a term for that.
Yeah, it's go stratospheric.
Yeah. So basically you go out of the atmosphere, and then because there's no gravity,
you go very fast. You go down. So it's probably a 15-minute trip.
Yeah, so the longest part's getting up and out. And then, because the world rotates about 18 times.
So pretty fast. You go, and then you go down again. So imagine a world in which you can go to London for the day.
Oh, don't tell my wife about this world.
It's going to be...
Okay, don't not listening. Don't worry, she doesn't listen to my stuff anyway, so that's fine. So moving along... And I guess there's plenty of stuff there about space and things that you have done, which has been revolutionary, really. And in regards to women on the front line, and you've really put yourself out there as a woman on the front line, and you have no doubts of what you're saying, and you're strong about it, and you want to encourage others. I'm from a equal opportunity, whoever it is, whether male, female, colour, whatever, it doesn't matter. It's whoever's best for the role should get the role, right? Do you think that that can be transferred into more things that are into space? Like you speaking to a 7-year-old girl, do you think that your touch points with them are changing the lives of some of these people?
I always say that every time I go to talk to a conference or in a classroom, I hope I can change one person's life. I always say that, one person per episode per day. And you don't need a lot of people to change the world. You need probably 10 great people are here.
Yeah,
so
that's true.
It's true. And because those are the leaders and people follows and stuff like that. So I really hope I change some people's life, on the way. Time will tell.
Time will tell. So cartoons, I'll cut to a cartoon. Did you grow up with any certain cartoons, or is there a cartoon that sticks?
I'm looking at things behind you.
Yeah, no. Is there a cartoon like for me? Like now because you're here, like Jetsons was one of those things I watched as a kid and thought, imagine that. And half of the stuff that I saw in the Jetsons is already here now.
Yeah, exactly.
Is there a cartoon that's stuck in your mind, and not Baby Shark or something that your kids have entrenched your mind?
When I was young, I was it was an Italian European thing. It was so my other passion is horror stuff.
Are you kidding?
Yeah, I'm completely mental for horror things. Okay, so I like all those.
Same with this kid.
Do you like horror stuff?
Yes.
It's pretty cool, right? And movies. So I had this horror, comedy book that I really liked about this guy that was doing a lot of crazy stuff. I really liked all those cartoons and I still nowadays I look at movies. The things I like the most are end of the world and everyone, dies, but some people are saved.
Yep. Do you like those?
I love them. And if it's a true story, like a tsunami and few dead, I love that. I could watch it 10 times a day. I don't. It's weird.
So space movies.
Space movie.
So can I ask? So is there a space movie that's hit home to you? And I'm happy to say some names and tell me if you've seen
everything
them.
that hit homes with me since at the beginning. So when I was young, I was completely mad about E.T. Okay,
Yeah.
I think E.T. is the reason why I'm here.
And you're younger than me, so
it was going to make me cry, so much emotion, and going to space and UFO. It's really important things
is there
to me.
any scene you could reenact from that movie?
I mean, all of them. I know that. I remember I was young, so I
Yeah,
was petrified
yeah,
when he was
yeah.
landing in the garden and they need to go to the shed. That was petrifying me. I was 10. I was like, this is a scary thing. So I watch E.T. now, and I'm like,
what?
like, this is it. Okay. Or when it was all white in the bathroom. And when I was young, I thought, that's weird. Now I look at it, I'm like, what is this? Like, it can't be scary. So that changed a lot for me.
I like the part where he's like in the closet and there's all the teddy bears and there's
such a good movie. That was such a good movie. But it was my first things about, there's something out there and it's cool and everything. And then I started liking all those crazy stuff, like that probably are not very relevant, like the Independence Day.
Yeah. Okay, so you're right into hardcore.
Exactly. Or I think
Interstellar.
Yeah, the stuff. But I really like I like them all. Okay, I'm not a Star Wars fan, for example, or
is that because it's a bit far-fetched?
Yeah.
I'm with you.
Interstellar is really complex. Like, I'm a smart person. Interstellar is the one that also, it gets into the closet and like, is it there? It's mental. Like, there is like this time.
Ollie,
Like,
Ollie.
I've watched it like 5 times and I'm a rocket scientist by background. And I'm still like, what's going on here? Like, I can't understand. Like, what?
Oh my God.
So that still drives me crazy.
So
but
gravity?
Gravity, I love it because it touches something that I really like, that is space debris. So I've got a couple of patents and I'm a super nerd and I like space debris as a problem. We talk a lot about Earth, but there is so much going on. Space debris, space rubbish. Okay.
So how much space rubbish is there?
Heaps. So if you go on YouTube and you Google Kessler syndrome,
what's it called?
Kessler, Kisler syndrome, 1,000 years in space or something. It shows all the things that start appearing. So everything is around Earth. And it's
Stop it. Is that real?
massive. Okay, so it just...
Is this real?
Yeah, it simulates all the satellites that are in space. So gravity touches a problem that we are living right now. So the fact that... Are you seeing it?
I'm looking this, yeah.
So it's...
Ollie can show people.
It just shows. If you enter into the YouTube, it shows how many things there are around Earth, and it's so many. So, and things in space goes at very high velocity. So if you have a little teeny tiny piece of debris, it can smash an entire satellite. Okay, so space debris, I love it. It's a good topic. So gravity touched me for that. Because at the beginning, she is there, things are hitting the space station.
This is one of those moments for me. That's a no-brainer. There must be heaps of space junk.
Heaps.
So can you just suck it somewhere and put it
So
back
a lot
into
of
the
people are
atmosphere?
trying to solve it, It's a big topic. But no one wants to be responsible. Is this your debris or my debris? Is it yours?
Well, who's going to pay for it? Yeah.
Who's going to pay for it? So here we are.
Okay, once it comes down to price. So how many people are sending nanotech, satellites? Like there's you.
So
is there any, like, is there...
Yeah, there is probably the top 2 are a company called Planet and Spire. They got 500 nanosatellites that they manage constellations. Now there are 5 teams that are launching comms, so communication satellites for sensors and space. But they say there are around 1,000 nanosatellites that are launched every year, and it will grow up to 10,000. So
with your...
space debris.
Yeah. How long does a large satellite?
So the thing is that a very large satellite stays there for 50 years, but it's so high in the atmosphere that what they've done so far is at the end of its lifetime, they kick it out, not in. So they kick it in. So it's just
the end. Be gone.
Then be gone. Okay. So they're pure rubbish, debris, waste. Now, because these satellites are very close to Earth, at the end of their lifetime, they get into the atmosphere again. They completely
burn.
Like there is not even a little piece left, so they're self-disposable. So that's awesome.
So a big satellite, 50 years.
This guy's 5 years.
Doesn't the I look at my phone.
Oh, here we are. That's the point. That's
okay.
exactly the point. You get me.
Okay, so I've got my satellite. Let's say I've got my brick phone. Yeah, back in the 80s, my dad had one. Funny enough, and then I've got this. As soon as this is a year old, I start getting edgy because it's not, it's
up
not,
to date. The camera is not good.
Yeah.
And
So the nanotech, nano satellites, I'm assuming are less life.
Yeah, less lifetime, and
Yeah.
you wanna change the technology as fast as you can. So keep updating, keep launching, keep updating, keep launching.
So you don't. So the 50-year.
No, you don't want to last it 50 years. You want
I could say the 50-year is Vodafone. That satellite out there, that's Vodafone on the 50-year tech.
Yeah,
I have no allegiance to Vodafone.
Yeah, hello, Vodafone. Still love you. But that's the concept of these new technologies. It's like an iPhone in space.
Yeah.
So, you can change things after 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, and keep innovating.
So I'm JP. I've got a whole lot of supermarkets, and there's a whole lot of refrigeration equipment in those supermarkets, and we do a lot of trucking in between. So I send from my warehouse into our stores, and that's not done by me. That's done by a third party.
Yeah,
so
let it go some trucks.
So I go, okay, I need some coverage. I go to you and say, I want to put in. Do I say 100 satellites?
No, you come to me. You don't want to put a satellite.
No,
you come
100
to me and
nanos?
say, no, not even nano satellites. You don't care about what is
Yeah.
in space. You come to me and say, I want to track, I want to cover this area to know all the trucks, what they are doing and why they are taking so long.
So let's say 100 of them.
Yeah, and I say, okay, buy a couple of boxes, put a dop on top of all your supermarket. You're gonna track everything in a supermarket, outside a supermarket, and there you go. And you don't even worry about the satellites or whatever is out there.
So what would that cost me? So if I was to do that for a satellite, I'm assuming that would cost me a lot of money.
No, it's super cheap. So you actually, in Fleet's Life, you put a little box. So you buy a box, you put it on top of the supermarket. So you got one of our customer Kenners that is putting on top of all his Kenner store.
Yep.
And you can connect 1,000 things in 10 kilometers range. And you decide what you want to track.
So then it tracks
and it costs you $10 per year per...
So basically, anyone that's listening or watching, actually a lot of people watch it, funny enough. Anyone that's listening, watching, so you have the solution to track anything for a ridiculously cheap price.
Yeah.
Like, in fact, when I looked at your site, it was like $15 a month or something.
It's less than 3G, yeah.
Yeah, and I was like, wow,
and you got
I could just track something for the hell of it. So
yeah, you can track your kids.
Ollie.
You can track Holly. Holly, what were you doing yesterday? We saw you. You were for 3 hours. You're not there. Were you getting a beer or something?
So I thought, I could just track Ollie, and it'd cost me like $15 a month.
Yeah.
That's amazing. The cost of that is obviously you're a volume game. We're a volume game in the supermarket industry.
Exactly.
You're clearly a volume game. So
Holly's like, what is going to happen to my privacy?
Okay, so here we go. So we're very aware that we're lucky enough to have the current trends in South Australia, and space being one of those. I'm very lucky to have someone like you in South Australia, specifically Adelaide. Adelaide cops a lot of shit for not being progressive and whatnot.
No, it's amazing now.
And when people talk about it now, it's like, we have unbelievable food, unbelievable wine. We're now space, we're defence, we're technically setting ourselves up now for, and it's sort of scary because a lot of people are coming to live down here. Our warehouse managers moved down from the Gold Coast. He goes, it's actually not bad here. And I'm going, no shit, mate, don't tell anyone. The reality is that we are in a good space in regards to what's going on with some of the bigger industry, and I'm happy to say that it's been quite competitive in the retail market, and I'm all for competition, but the way Audi got let into town was ridiculous. There's a bit too much red carpet, and it was really easy for them which hurt a lot of retailers out there. So Kaifland not being in town has been a good thing for the majority of obviously the people that had jobs at Kaifland. Very disappointing, but in general, it's helped. That decision is going to bolster up what's happening in South Australia, and it's really good to see that you're now an Australian citizen and now super excited to be forming part of some of the most exciting things with the space agency. I noticed Mr. Trump started to talk about a space force.
I know.
And I've read a fair bit about that. When people start wanting to organise a space force to waste lots of money, it's becoming a scary thing because they're running out of things to fight against. What do you think you could be the chief commander of the space force?
Yes, anytime. The Space Force, I mean, very Star Wars-ish, so, it's hard to comment. What I actually believe, though, that eventually if we're going to live in Mars or on the moon, this is like 50, 100 years plan, I don't think we got any plans about that, We don't know how the laws going to be.
Yeah.
We don't know if a baby is going to be born there.
So one thing that I've learned that no one actually owns the moon.
It is a moon treaty that says that no one owns it, no one can exploit it. So, there's few activities that you can do on that, but it's not exploitation, so not resources for commercial activities.
So China's got approval to look, because they've obviously landed their rover. It's probably called something else. It's probably called a Chinese rover.
A Chinese rover is a great name, JP, great name. Like if you were in charge of naming the rovers, it would be fantastic. Okay.
But they obviously have got their rover there. I don't hear of anyone landing there. And is it because there's like nothing there?
So no,
why aren't they?
The moon is interesting because so most of the complicated things go to in this deep space is because getting out of the atmosphere is a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
Okay. 90%, I don't know, maybe I'm exaggerating, but 70% of the fuel that needs to get out just to get out of Earth. So the gravity is different in the moon. So it's a better station for deep space mission. So it's going to be our station, literally, for us to work in deep space. Otherwise, it costs too much to do all those missions from Earth. There is not much in the moon, but there is a lot of water. Yeah. I believe that most of the things that we will learn,
how to live underground or...
It's a lot of things that we learn, but the moon is interesting because it's really hard to get out of Earth. Earth has got a very strong atmosphere, so the rockets will be very powerful. So you need to spend a lot of money.
Yeah, to get out.
But
once you're out, you can fly.
Yeah, from the moon it's easier, So they're going to build 3D printing, rockets, and all sort of stuff,
So that's exciting. So if you could be a space superhero,
yeah,
what do you think you would call yourself? Sorry, this is real. I totally just made that up. Then I'm curious because I've got one more question after this.
A space superhero.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
So
Rocket Woman, that would be. No,
yeah, that would be. My power. So the power that I would like to have, if I was superhero, and then we find the name for the power. So what I would like to do if I was a superhero in space. Actually, I would like. It's super bizarre.
I'm up for it.
You're up for it. I would like to get very, very, very close to the sun.
Okay. Like land on the sun. Like actually touch the sun.
It's very hot. So
well, you're superhero. You can touch the sun.
So if I'm a superhero, I can go into the sun and understand what is going on. I will be...
Like re-energized?
Yeah, something like that, and I can bring...
Like earthing?
Yeah, something like that.
This is a modern day earthing? That's awesome. No one's ever talked about being like on the sun.
It fascinates me when I see all those explosions
that
come. So it's not really a planet, it's a full of explosions.
The solar flares?
Yeah, I love it. So I would like to be a solar flare woman.
Okay, done. Solar flare woman.
What
and the thing that blows me away with the sun is if the sun like disappeared,
we'll all be dead.
How long would it take us?
1 second.
Oh, I thought it was like that many light years away.
I don't know. Oh, yeah. It's not so far. It's not so far as you think.
Okay.
But I love, the other day I was playing with my daughter and we were doing a game. Would you prefer a word, if you have to choose, a word without music or without color? Without rain or without sun?
That's a good game.
And I'm like, would you prefer a word without sun or without rain? And she's like, without rain. And I'm like, the word will die soon without rain. She's like, without sun. So she's like, kind of for her to understand everything is needed.
That's
you
good.
know?
So
That's a good
would you
thing.
prefer a world with JP or without JP?
With JP. Okay, with JP. Without you, all the supermarket will be full of plastic. In the next 20 years, I will be in trouble.
All right,
Okay.
you've hit me up for that. And there is one question that we do ask everyone that we've had. And if you were to die, heaven forbid, and you came back as a board game,
As a board game.
what would that board game be called? I can tell you mine.
My God. Why do I have to die to be called a board game?
So it's a commemorative thing. All right?
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So I'd come back as Scrabble because you never know what you're going to get. And sometimes what I say is very useful and sometimes what I say is not.
Totally useless. Useless.
Yeah.
I would be Risk.
Is that a game?
Yeah.
Risk?
Risk is the one that you conquer the you know Risk?
No, he
Come
does.
on, what
All
did
he
you
does-
do in so Risk is the one that got a map of the world and you need to move it with your track. No, what's the name?
Yeah,
you need
I
to
got it.
conquer the other
I got
thing.
it. I got
If
it.
you don't know it, buy it because it's awesome.
I got it. Okay.
I spent all my childhood playing this game, and I love it because you need to have technique. So when I was playing that game, so you have all the continent, they give you cards, you put your troop, you need to move and conquer the world. And the best way to conquer the world is to conquer Australia first, because Australia, you protect all Asia, and you enter through America, and you conquer all America, and then South America, and the world is yours. So all my childhood, I was like, get Australia, get Australia first, and then you conquer the world. And it's happening, because I'm getting Australia first, and then I'm going to conquer the world, jumping from Asia, entering from North America. It's going to be great.
And I think the name is pretty apparent for what you're doing.
It's Risk.
You've plenty of risk. Flavia, thank you for coming
Thanks
here.
for having me.
I've had a pleasure. It's been a blast. You've been exactly how you are every single time I've spoken to you. So nothing has changed at all. We wish you all the best.
Thank you so much.
I'm so looking forward to seeing what you do with regards to space and seeing things being launched here in South Australia. That'd be a great thing. I'm so looking forward to going for a fly in this car that you're going to hook up. And more importantly, it's really great to see you succeeding and excelling and killing it in South Australia and Adelaide. And we wish you all the best.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Ciao.
Ciao.